So this is my raw rundown for the September 8th, 2014 showing. And oh boy, I'm going to try and get through this as quickly as possible. Um, so yeah. It started off with the Wyatt Jericho match. Trying to keep my voice down because my wife's in the other room sleeping, and I'm acclimating myself for working tomorrow night because I go from working days to nights, and it's kind of weird. So keep my voice down a little bit. Yeah. So Wyatt Jericho cage match. It was a very uneventful match. There wasn't really a whole lot of big spots in it. Um, Jericho did a huge crossbody off the top of the cage, and they tried selling this knee injury angle, which they went into a spot with that later. But yeah, it wasn't really that interesting of a match, which is a shame because both these guys can really wrestle. Um, they had a really funny Miz Dolph Ziggler thing going on. Ziggler was showing off funny not videos, but photos of the Miz, kind of playing off the hacked nude photos that's going around right now in the media, building up their match for Night of Champions, and it should be a good match. I'm a fan of anything that Ziggler does. uh, Paige and AJ take on Natalia and Rosa. It was a very short 2.5 minute match. It really wasn't a whole lot going on. It was just your basic setup match for pay per view. Not a whole lot of stuff happened. Then it cut to Jericho getting his knee looked at in the back, and then Orton came out and ambushed him. Does it lead into a feud later? I don't know. If it does, hopefully it means more work for Jericho. Maybe he moves up in the ranks. Maybe they set up something for him later. Who knows? I just hope when they brought him back, they did it for the right reasons. They've already pretty much fed Wyatt to Cena, and I don't even know where he's going at this point. Um, I'm going to skip the Paul Heyman part for the very end because I have a lot to say on that. Sheamus and Seth Rollins. It was a good match, but there wasn't a whole lot going on. Would have expected a little bit more out of them. It wasn't bad. I just felt like it could have been better. Cesaro came out to distract Sheamus, obviously again to keep working on their spot for Night of Champions. Which should be a really good match. Sheamus and Cesaro, really good. Like they're both big powerhouse players, so we'll see what happens. Sheamus botched, and I do mean he badly botched the curb stomp at the end of the match. But when you're working, they hadn't worked with each other before, to my knowledge, anyway. So yeah, no big deal on that. Another pointless Rusev and Lana skit. It to me it just seems like it's nearly as bad as John Cena. It's been like the same thing since Rusev started becoming weekly after the Royal Rumble. It's just been the same crap every single week. So does he get inducted to the Hall of Fame? Maybe. Probably the better match of the night was when they brought up the top four guys from NXT: Adrian Neville, Sami Zayn, and they have them fight against Tyson Kidd and Tyler Breeze. It was only it was barely a 5 minute match, but it was a very good 5 minute match. It was a good opportunity for some of the people who had never seen NXT to see some of the talent in NXT. And all four of these guys are going to be in a fatal four-way for the NXT Championship this Thursday at Takedown. I highly recommend, if you have the means to watch it, you do, because all four of these guys are really good. The Jerry Springer Bella promo that they were building up all night, it was stupid. Right off the bat, I can tell you right now, it's not really doing good for either one of them. It's not promoting Nikki in her triple threat match now, which I just found out about over the weekend. I looked at the roster card for Night of Champions, and I was like, really? Did they really just add her for no reason at all? Um, Neither of the Bellas can act, which really doesn't help them out. The only convincing of the two is probably Nikki, and that's because she's trying to play like the victim. And the whole thing just felt like a really cheap Jerry Springer show. It just ended with it was to go on with the feud, bring their family in the middle of it. It just seemed like a giant pissing contest between all of them. It really didn't go anywhere. And like I said, the Bellas can act, so it was such a pain. And the fact that it pretty much went out into this extremely non-convincing brawl just to have Springer get carried out in a stretcher was so facepalm worthy. It was ridiculous. Two throwaway matches: the Matadors versus Stardust and Goldust. 2 minute match, really didn't do anything. Stardust picked up the win, only to have the Usos jump them when they were on the ramp. Again, going into their spots for the pay-per-view. Titus O'Neil, Adam Rose rematch from last week. The only funny thing about this was that guy in the bunny costume, he super kicked Heath Slater, and it was a pretty convincing super kick. All I kept thinking was, well, yeah, he just kicked the taste out of his mouth for a couple of weeks. That match was like just over a minute. And then they go into an extremely uneventful rematch from SummerSlam, Randy Orton versus Roman Reigns. I think tied for the longest match. The first and the last match roughly about the same time. This match was just boring. I'm sorry. I mean, I don't know what it is. Maybe it's just the fact that I've grown to not expect much out of Randy Orton. He just seems like he's not trying in the ring. Although sometimes I do believe he's more believable when it comes to his character, where it's Roman Reigns. Seems about as bland as a snowstorm, and there's just nothing there to really kind of get a hold of yet. But if they are building him up to a WrestleMania main event with Brock Lesnar, hopefully he has some more semblance of character at that point. Ended in DQ. Kane and Rollins came out. They broke up the whole thing. Tossed him around. Rollins did a really impressive leap off the top of the cage. Yeah, Orton called the cage down from the beginning of the match. Rollins jumped in, went after Reigns. Rollins curb stomped Reigns into a steel chair shortly after. Yeah, so on my Facebook, I'd originally said that I thought this was going to be like a B- version of Raw. I'm pretty much sold on that. Although we did get a lot more content than we did get last week. I think last week we got between 30 and 40 minutes of actually in-ring wrestling, whereas it was actually wrestling that was on TV, not on the app. Not counting promos and commercials from the time the bell rang to the time the bell rung again to end the match. Not counting the commercials, pausing stopwatch in between all that. Actual in-ring wrestling time, 45 minutes. So it was better this week than it was last week. So going to the Cena promo, I will say this: they are desperately trying to sell fans on Cena. If you did not watch it, I will tell you right now, it'll probably drive you insane. It drove me insane. My first thought of it was I kind of had a soft spot for it, but actually, like, taking a few hours to actually think on it, I don't know if I can hit a new low for Cena than I already did, but I think that I did, and it infuriated me so much. It really did. Like, basically, I'll really quick. Heyman comes out, and he's laying down the groundwork for the rematch. Cena comes out, and he's first of all, his passive-aggressive attitude when he gets in the ring is something I cannot stand. It's just like, well, thank you for... It almost feels like you're treating all the people in the audience like they're idiots. And just remember, like, these are the same... Like, all the kids are in the audience are the ones that are buying your product. So, yeah. Keep having that attitude. And then he went into his thing where he's like, I encourage the kids to do their homework. And right away, I'm just... Ugh. Really? Just... Something about that really bugged me. Kind of like, because he exists, they're now his hope in the universe. That's just the vibe I got. And that's how he's coming across. And I'm not alone on this either. Like, I guarantee you find other reviewers out there, they're going to pretty much say the same thing, give or take a few things differently. And then he was going on about, oh, and for the 40-year-old fans, that 40-year-old wrestling dads that don't like me, that tell me that they don't like me, but they like what I do, what they like the fact that I'm there for their son. I was just like, can you please just get I'm like, please, could you just cut to a commercial now or something? This felt so forced and contrived, and it was really insulting too, because it's pretty much telling like, hey, you 80s wrestling fan, because obviously you must be a big fan, because you wouldn't be bringing your child who's still young and who's still too young to know what old school wrestling was, that loves John Cena. Obviously they had to have grown up with it. So I'm like, oh, so you're basically telling this guy who's probably been a fan ever since like the 80s, when Hulk Hogan pretty much like he made wrestling and television kind of like right there, and you're pretty much insulting him right to his face. But it's like, by the way, you're welcome for what I've done for your kid. I'm like, that's like the narcissism is, it's hidden, but when you actually when you actually understand it, you just can't help it. Like, I cannot believe it. Like, at one point I really was waiting for him just to like pull out a cross and grab out and get some nails and be like, I'm gonna go nail myself to this now for all your sins, because that's pretty much the whole thing. He's like, I did it for the kids who do their who and then who do their homework, and I do it for the people who don't for hate me who blah, blah, blah. Sorry, I'm getting tongue tied. I do it for the people that hate me. And I'm just like, dude, oh my god, shut up. It's the same speech for over 10 years. We get it. We're not sold on you. I'm not sold on him. And this just pissed me off. Because now I felt like he was insulting my intelligence. Because now it's just like, oh, you may not like me, but okay, well, you're stupid. Because that's what it felt like to me. And then he went into the spot about, oh, and then there were, I do it for the the soldier who got injured and gave me his Purple Heart. I did it for him because he said I was his inspiration. And at that point, I could not laugh, because all I kept thinking, I'm like, bro, come on, dude. Do you really think that these guys are over there defending this country, wearing your headbands and your wristbands and those ridiculous never give up towels? I was like, dude, oh my god, I don't. Ugh. It felt so wrong. They're doing his book. They're doing this so wrong, and it feels like they are force feeding him down everyone's throats. Why? Because they have faith in no one else, and that is my problem. That is my problem. Let the people like who they want to like, or don't let them like, or let them continue to dislike who they want to dislike. But this has probably been the longest I've ever seen where they have deliberately tried to sell the character to us over and over and over again. Why? Because they don't have faith in anyone else, and you can see it, because they're having this man bury talent left and right. They have him feud with Bray Wyatt for 3 pay-per-views straight almost, just to have him bury Wyatt after SummerSlam to prove that John Cena is not a pushover. But yeah. Oh, I'm gonna have to do just an anti-Cena video just to get it fully off my chest as to fully why I don't like it. If you're not fully convinced at this point, yeah. If you are a Cena fan, I do apologize. This is no disrespect towards you. This is just how I'm seeing it. This is how a lot of like old school hardcore fans see it. Don't feel discouraged. All the more power to you. Keep liking who you like. We need more people out there who will stick to their guns. But yeah, that's how I felt. Mediocre show tonight, guys. Really wasn't impressed. Anyway, thank you for those who are watching. And I will see you all next time.